At 2:03 a.m., CEO Amelia Rowan followed the poorest man in her entire company into the frozen darkness, certain she was about to expose a criminal. What she found instead would dismantle everything she believed about power, loyalty, and humanity. The Hawthorne Tech Tower pierced the Chicago night like a blade, 47 floors of steel, glass, and ambition, each window glowing with the cold blue light of profit margins and quarterly forecasts. On the top floor, Amelia Rowan stood motionless behind her office window, her reflection floating against the city like a ghost made of gold hair and hardened resolve. 33 years old, youngest CEO in the company's history, and utterly alone at this hour. Snow drifted sideways across the skyline, dancing in the wind like white ash. Inside, Amelia's office breathed silence, the kind that comes before a verdict. Her hand tightened around the security report lying on her desk. Missing components, unauthorized access, a janitor appearing on restricted floors at impossible hours, Noah Ellis, night shift custodian, minimal salary, no degree, no credentials, no record of ever working in a technical field. Yet somehow he kept showing up near sensitive machinery, and the board had made their demands very clear. Find inefficiencies, cut spending, eliminate threats. If you can't control this company, Miss Rowan, someone else will. She had worked too hard to let anyone take her position, least of all a janitor who vanished every night at exactly 2:00 a.m., carrying a battered toolbox worth more than his entire month's pay. For 3 weeks, she'd watched him on the cameras. For 3 weeks, she'd convinced herself he was stealing. For 3 weeks, she'd built a narrative in her mind, the perfect scapegoat to show the board she was ruthless, vigilant, unshakable. And tonight, she would catch him in the act. Amelia slipped off her heels and pulled on a pair of black boots. She traded her navy dress for a charcoal coat, tied her hair back, and stepped into the elevator without alerting security. Her breath fogged the mirrored walls as she descended 47 floors toward the quiet, sleeping heart of the building. When the doors opened, she saw him. Noah Ellis, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with a patience that irritated her. He wrung out his mop, hung it carefully on the rack, took his dented metal toolbox, and stepped into the service exit. 2:01 a.m. Right on schedule. Amelia waited until the door clicked shut before stepping into the alley, the cold air slicing through her coat. Noah's footsteps crunched ahead of her, steady and unhurried, guiding her deeper into the sleeping city. He didn't look over his shoulder. He didn't suspect a thing. And Amelia felt a strange thrill, the same mix of fear and certainty she'd felt the night she became CEO. Snow was falling harder now, coating the sidewalks in white. A stray dog trotted across the street. The traffic lights blinked uselessly over empty intersections. Noah turned east toward the riverfront industrial district, a place where people disappeared, a place where stolen goods were traded, a place where Amelia feared the worst and hoped for something to justify her suspicions. Her pulse hammered with every step she took in the shadows behind him. If Noah was selling company equipment, if he was part of a sabotage scheme, if he was funneling tech to the black market, all Amelia needed was a single photo, one moment, one broken man to save her reputation. Noah stopped at the edge of an abandoned train station, a collapsed relic of the 1970s, half swallowed by rust and graffiti. The windows were shattered, the roof caved in, the sign barely legible beneath decades of decay. Why would a janitor come here at 2 a.m? Amelia's throat tightened. Noah pulled a makeshift key from his pocket, metal welded crudely but accurately, and unlocked a narrow side door. Warm light spilled out, a thin, trembling line across the snow. Then he disappeared inside. Amelia felt the moment snap, the point of no return. If she walked away, she would forever wonder. If she went inside, everything could change. She crept to the door, laid her hand against the cold frame and pushed, just enough to see through the crack. Her breath caught. Her world froze, and the truth she'd been chasing shattered into dust. For several seconds, Amelia could only blink through the narrow opening, unable to reconcile what she was seeing with everything she had believed just minutes earlier. The abandoned train station, the place she was certain housed criminals, stolen hardware, or some underground tech exchange, had been transformed into something that did not belong to any map of Chicago. It looked like a hidden world stitched together from loss, hope, and stubborn human resilience. The old ticket counters had been turned into makeshift shelves stacked with books, wires, and tools. Torn insulation hung from the ceiling like faded ribbons. A cluster of battery-powered lanterns cast soft amber light that pushed back the cold. Near the far wall, 7 sleeping bags lay neatly in a row, each with a child curled inside. Children. 7 of them. All under one collapsing roof. All sleeping beside heaters Noah must have repaired himself. The air smelled faintly of solder, old wood, and something warm, soup, maybe. Life. Safety. The exact opposite of her expectations. Noah sat at a long metal table, his posture relaxed but focused, his hands working with the ease of someone who understood machines the way others understood language. A broken laptop lay open before him, wires spilled across the surface like exposed veins. His face, illuminated by the glow of a small LED lamp, was calm, tired, determined. Not the face of a thief, not the face of a saboteur, but of a man trying to hold together a world that was already falling apart. Amelia covered her mouth, afraid even her breath might disturb this impossible scene. Just then, a little boy stirred in his sleeping bag. He sat up groggily, wiping his eyes with a tiny fist, and whispered, "Uncle Noah? You're back?" Noah turned immediately, his entire expression softening in a way Amelia had never seen from him. "I'm right here, buddy," he murmured. "Go back to sleep. I fixed the heater. It won't get cold tonight." The boy nodded sleepily, trusting him without question, and lay back down. Amelia's heart clenched, not from sentimentality, but from shock. A shock that went deeper than she wanted to admit. She had spent years believing vulnerability was weakness, years believing compassion was a liability, years believing everyone wanted something from her. But here, in the crumbling ribs of an abandoned station, stood a man who had nothing, and somehow chose to give away everything he had left. Her hand slipped from the door frame, and the hinge creaked. Noah's head snapped up. In an instant, the softness vanished. His posture tightened. His eyes became alert, calculating, scanning the darkness until the beam of his lantern found her face. The light struck Amelia full in the eyes, and she froze. For a long, heavy moment, neither of them spoke. The air stretched thin. Her throat burned. Then Noah lowered the lantern. Slowly. Not relieved. Not surprised. Disappointed. Deeply, unmistakably disappointed. "You followed me." It wasn't a question. Amelia opened her mouth, but the words scattered. The rehearsed excuses, the talk about security breaches, missing components, company protocols, all sounded cheap and hollow even in her own mind. Noah waited, but not patiently. His jaw tightened. "Why?" he asked. The word cut through her like a wire pulled too thin. "Because," she swallowed. "Because I didn't understand why you were here at night, why you were in restricted areas. I thought you thought I was stealing." His voice was calm but edged with something sharper. Truth. Amelia felt heat rising to her face, a burn of embarrassment she hadn't felt since childhood. "I thought you were hiding something," she admitted quietly. Noah let out a low, humorless breath. I was, he said. Just not what you wanted to find. He stepped aside from the doorway, making room for her to enter, a silent invitation, or perhaps a challenge. Part of Amelia wanted to step back into the snow, into the cold safety of her predictable corporate life. But the larger part, the part that had followed him through the city like a moth to a flame, moved forward almost against her will. She crossed the threshold. Warmth washed over her. Children's soft breathing filled the space. Machines hummed quietly around her like mechanical prayers. Noah closed the door behind them, shutting out the winter, shutting her inside a world she was not prepared for. "Sit," he said, nodding toward an overturned crate. His tone wasn't rude. It was simply exhausted. Amelia sat. Noah did not look at her right away. He knelt beside the broken laptop, set down his soldering iron, and wiped his hands on an old cloth. When he finally looked up, his eyes were clear and steady, not angry, but unafraid. "You want the truth, Miss Rowan?" he asked softly. "Here it is." He gestured to the children, to the tools, to the fragile, improvised life he'd built. "This is what I'm hiding." Amelia's chest tightened. Her breath hitched. There were no words prepared for this. And Noah, seeing her silence, added with a quiet fury that made her spine stiffen. "You were so focused on finding a criminal that you never bothered to see the human being right in front of you." His words hit harder than any threat, harder than any board member's criticism. For the first time in many years, Amelia felt something crack inside her, not from weakness, but from a truth she'd spent her whole life refusing to face. And as the lantern flickered between them, painting shadows across the walls, she realized with a throb of fear that nothing in her world would ever be the same again. The lantern's glow trembled across Noah's face as he returned to the metal table. Amelia remained on the crate, hands clasped tightly, attempting to hold herself together. But her heartbeat was loud, too loud for a woman who prided herself on unshakable composure. Noah didn't speak right away. He let the silence do its work. Behind them, the children slept in uneven little rows, their breaths rising and falling softly. A cracked window admitted a thin draft, but the heaters Noah had revived kept the cold from biting. "How long?" Amelia finally whispered. Noah didn't look at her. He was picking up a tiny resistor with tweezers, hands steady, movements almost surgical. 14 months, he replied. Amelia frowned. "You've been doing this for 14 months? "Longer," Noah said quietly. "Before the station, it was an old storage unit on State Street. Before that, a garage. Before that, a basement owned by a neighbor who didn't ask questions." He tested the resistor, adjusted its angle, soldered the point with a precision Amelia had never seen in any of her engineers, let alone a janitor. "What happened?" she asked, unable to stop herself. "You didn't start your life here." Noah's hands hesitated over the circuit board. A flicker of pain, of memory, crossed his expression. Then he set the tools down and finally faced her. "My wife," he began, voice low. "Lena." Amelia held her breath. She was a youth counselor, worked with kids who aged out of foster care or ran away or fell through the cracks. She had this insane belief that every child deserved someone who wouldn't give up on them. His eyes drifted to the sleeping forms. These 7 were hers. She met them over the years, kept in touch, helped them survive. And when the system failed them, because it always fails the kids who don't fit neatly into forms, she found ways to keep them together. Amelia's heart squeezed painfully. Noah swallowed hard. Then one winter she got sick. Too fast, too aggressive. Medical bills stacked higher than the hope they offered. He exhaled, long and slow. So I quit my job to care for her. Amelia blinked. Job? What job? Noah looked up sharply, almost offended she didn't know. I was an aerospace systems engineer, he said simply. Worked on thermoregulation units and adaptive avionics. Hawthorne's subsidiary actually tried to hire me once. Amelia's mouth parted in shock. He continued. When Lena died, the kids were supposed to be separated, sent off to various shelters, different states, different strangers. He shook his head, jaw clenching. I couldn't let that happen. So you took them? Amelia murmured. No, he corrected softly. I kept my promise. I became what they needed. And that meant taking any job that paid quickly. No background checks, no delays, no questions. He gave a small, humorless smile. Turns out janitors are invisible. No one cares who they are, where they came from, or what they carry. Perfect cover to keep the kids safe. Amelia felt a coldness seep into her bones, not from the winter air, but from herself, from the version of her that had looked at this man and seen only a liability. Noah continued working, eyes softer now, though his voice carried something sharp underneath. I fix machines at night because refurbished tech sells easily. That's how we pay for food, heaters, medicine. Everything those kids were denied. Amelia stared at him, her composure unraveling thread by thread. Why didn't you ask for help? She whispered. Noah's gaze snapped to hers, piercing, almost wounded. Because people like you don't help people like us. It wasn't an insult. It wasn't anger. It was simply the truth as he had lived it. Amelia's stomach twisted. She wasn't used to being wrong. She wasn't used to being seen. Noah, she began, but he raised a hand gently. You came here to catch a criminal. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned. And you found something inconvenient instead. Someone doing the best they can with nothing. Amelia's throat tightened. Outside, the distant rumble of a freight train passed through the night, rattling the station. Snow crackled against the windows. Noah took a seat across from her, elbows on his knees, lantern light casting shadows between them. Tell me the real reason you followed me, he said. Not the corporate excuse. The real one. Amelia looked down at her hands. Her nails were trembling. The board is pressuring me, she admitted. They want cuts, sacrifices, someone to blame for the missing components. And you... She swallowed. You were an easy target. Noah stared at her, expression unreadable. So, my poverty made me suspicious, he said quietly. Amelia closed her eyes, shame hitting like a wave. Yes, she whispered. It did. The silence that followed was thick and painful. Noah stood, walked a few steps away, then turned back. I don't need you to feel guilty, he said. I just need you to see, he gestured around the station, that this is not theft, not sabotage, not whatever story your board wants. He stepped closer, his voice low but unmistakably firm. These kids aren't data points, and I'm not a mistake on your spreadsheets. Amelia's eyes burned. She had never felt so small, so wrong, so broken open. Noah softened slightly, seeing the crack in her armor but not gloating over it. I'm not your enemy, Miss Rowan, he said quietly. I never was. Before Amelia could answer, a small voice broke the tension. Uncle Noah? Water? A little girl with tangled hair had woken and was holding out an empty plastic cup. Noah immediately knelt and filled it from a jug, brushing her hair back gently. Amelia watched, something deep inside her shifting, something she didn't have a name for. Not yet. The girl drank, then looked at Amelia with wide, wary eyes. "Are you a bad person?" she asked softly. Amelia flinched. Noah looked sharply at the girl. "June." But Amelia raised a trembling hand. "It's okay," she whispered. The little girl stared at her a moment longer, then crawled back into her sleeping bag. Amelia exhaled, the breath shaking. Noah extinguished the lantern slowly. "You should go, Amelia," he said gently. "It's late, and there's nothing here you need to fear." But Amelia didn't move, because something inside her already knew. What she feared most wasn't Noah, or the board, or the scandal. It was the possibility that for the first time in her life, she had finally seen something worth changing for. Snow had already piled knee-high outside the abandoned station when Amelia finally stepped back into the freezing night. The door closed behind her with a soft, final click, like a gavel striking the table of her conscience. She walked blindly for a full block before she realized she was shaking. Not from cold, not from fear, but from the shock of seeing something she had long forgotten existed. Unfiltered human goodness. Every step toward the city lights felt wrong, like she was walking away from a truth she wasn't ready to face. Her boots crushed the thin layer of frost on the sidewalk, each crack sounding louder than the last. I was going to destroy him. The thought sliced through her. She had followed Noah Ellis with the same calculated precision she used to dismantle competitors. She had stripped him down to a profile: low income, late hours, suspicious behavior. She had reduced a man's life to a risk assessment. And in that train station, she had walked straight into the proof of her own blindness. Children had whispered to him. Heated air from machines he revived had kept them alive. He had used his hands, not to steal, but to rebuild hope from trash and scrap metal. Amelia stopped beneath a flickering streetlight, breath forming clouds in the air. For a long time, she had believed the world was divided neatly. Those who took and those who were taken from, those who climbed and those who fell, those who commanded and those who obeyed. But the man she followed tonight had not fit anywhere in that equation. He belonged to a different kind of world, one she had never learned to see. I judged him before I even knew his name. The realization tasted bitter, metallic, like the afterburn of humiliation. She ran a hand through her hair, but the gesture only reminded her of Noah's words. You were so focused on finding a criminal that you never bothered to see the human being right in front of you. She stopped walking. The streets were empty. The wind whispered through the frozen alleys, and for the first time in years, Amelia Rowan let herself feel something other than the relentless drive to succeed. Regret, shame, and beneath both, a strange flicker of something softer. Hope, perhaps, or the beginning of humility. By the time she reached her penthouse apartment overlooking Lake Michigan, the city was asleep. The glass doors slid open, revealing a space too neat, too polished, a home curated more for appearances than for living. Amelia dropped her coat onto a chair, forgetting to hang it. She didn't turn on the lights. Chicago's glow spilled through the windows, illuminating the sharp lines of her furniture and the sharper lines of her loneliness. She went straight to the mirror in her hallway. Her reflection stared back at her, blonde hair pulled tight, eyes pale from fatigue, jaw clenched with the habit of command. But she didn't see power there tonight. She saw the girl she used to be, the teenager who learned from her father that fragility was a flaw and compassion was a currency to be exploited. The young woman who buried her mother with a face so stoic that even grief felt like an inconvenience. The rising executive who traded sleep, softness, and friendship for a corner office. The CEO who had no room in her life for mistakes, especially her own. A tremble passed through her. Something inside her chest cracked, like a pane of glass challenged by too much cold. She touched the mirror with her fingertips. Her voice was barely a breath. "I was wrong." The words felt scandalous and liberating. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she sat on the floor with her back against the couch, knees drawn close, replaying every second inside that train station. The girl who asked if she was a bad person. Noah's steady, disappointed eyes. The warmth in the room made from nothing but broken machines and a man's refusal to let children freeze. Somewhere around 4 a.m., Amelia whispered the first honest thought she'd allowed herself in years. "I need to fix this." But how does someone like her, trained to protect herself, to guard every feeling behind a gate of iron, make amends? Apologies were easy. She could buy gifts, hire experts, sign checks. But none of that would touch the wound she caused. None would earn trust from those children who curled into their sleeping bags like small, exhausted warriors. None would undo the way Noah had looked at her, not with hatred, but with truth. Amelia stood slowly, her decision taking shape. She would not run from this. She would not bury the memory, and she would not let the board's hunger for a scapegoat dictate what happened next. If Noah Ellis had spent 14 months building a world in the shadows, then she, with all her power, influence, and money, would do something her father would have despised. She would choose humanity over control. But she also knew something else, painful and undeniable. To help Noah, to protect the children, to bring this truth into the light. She would first have to dismantle the lies she had allowed to fester inside her own building. A chill ran up her spine, not from cold but from clarity. Harrison Wells, the missing components, the conveniently edited footage, the sudden need for a scapegoat. It all snapped together like gears locking into place. Someone inside Hawthorne Tech wasn't just negligent. They were orchestrating something. And tomorrow she would begin ripping apart whatever web of deception she had ignored for too long, but not as the old Amelia Rowan. The woman who stepped into the elevator before sunrise, hair still messy from a sleepless night, wasn't the same CEO who had left the office at 2 a.m. Something had shifted inside her. A crack, a question, a beginning. The city was waking, and so was she. The next morning arrived gray and brittle, the kind of winter dawn that seemed to carry bad news in its bones. Amelia stepped into Hawthorne Tech Tower just past 7 a.m., coffee untouched in her hand, her mind still tangled with images of the abandoned station. The lobby buzzed with the usual mechanical rhythm, security gates blinking green, staff badges beeping, frozen breath lingering on scarves. But something felt wrong. Too many people were clustered around the elevators. Too many anxious faces turned toward the ceiling vents. Too many coats were still on, even indoors. Then she felt it. The cold creeping through the marble floors. "Why is it freezing in here?" Amelia asked. Her assistant, Mara, rushed over with a tablet hugged to her chest. "Ms. Rowan, something's happening with the climate control system. The temperature dropped 10 degrees in the last hour. Maintenance can't get the boilers online." Amelia's pulse tightened. "And the network?" Mara hesitated. "Offline. Completely. It says it's a system-wide malfunction." System-wide. Climate control down. Internal servers down. Communications spotty. It was too much at once. A familiar dread curled through Amelia's stomach, the kind she used to ignore, the kind she used to drown in productivity and ruthless efficiency. "Get everyone to the lower floors," she ordered. "Tell staff to gather blankets, portable heaters, anything." As she strode toward the executive elevator, a voice cut through the icy air. "Ms. Rowan? It was Dev Patel, her chief of operations. A loyal man, a man she trusted, or at least used to. The board wants you upstairs. Now. Of course they did. She entered the private elevator. Each floor ticked past slowly, the cold biting deeper as she rose. By the time she reached the 45th floor, her breath was visible. The boardroom was chaos. Executives huddled in wool coats, heaters sputtering uselessly. Frost had begun creeping along the windows like pale veins of panic. Franklin Hawthorne, founder's son, chairman, and perpetual thorn, slammed a hand onto the table. This is unacceptable, Amelia. We have investors flying in today, clients waiting on conference calls, and you can't even keep the heat on? It's a cascading system failure, Amelia said. We're assessing the root cause. His eyes narrowed. The root cause is your incompetence. She ignored him, something she had never dared before last night. Oliver Dermott, head of technical operations, cleared his throat. We're working on it, but the system is unresponsive. My team needs more time. Time. Amelia knew time was exactly what they didn't have. The temperature was dropping dangerously. Servers were at risk of failure. Any delay could cost millions. She inhaled, steadying herself. Oliver, she said carefully, you told me your department made upgrades last month. Could those have... No. His answer was immediate, too quick. We're looking at either operator error or unauthorized tampering. Unauthorized. A loaded word. Heads turned toward her. The trap was re-emerging, subtle and suffocating. Amelia felt it, the invisible fingers of suspicion clamping around her throat. This was why they had wanted a scapegoat. This was why Noah had been convenient. And this was why she could not, would not, let the old Amelia take over. She stood, surprising everyone. I know someone who can fix this. The board erupted. You're not bringing in outside contractors. We have protocols. This is an internal matter. You'll jeopardize security. Amelia raised a hand. He's already inside the building. Silence fell. Franklin sneered. Who? One of your executives? Your assistant? Some overpriced consultant? Amelia met his gaze without blinking. No, she said. A janitor. The room exploded, voices overlapping in disbelief and outrage. Absolutely not. You can't be serious. A janitor? This is a Fortune 200 company. But Amelia didn't back down. She didn't flinch. She didn't apologize. She didn't fold the way she always had under pressure. She spoke with a quiet authority that pinned the room to silence. He's not just a janitor. He's an aerospace systems engineer who spent years designing thermal and electrical systems more complex than anything in this building. And he knows our infrastructure better than anyone here. Franklin scoffed. And how exactly do you know that? Amelia held his gaze. I followed him last night. A stunned hush. Then, you what? Why? This is a breach of... Enough, Amelia said firmly. Either we let him try, or we watch this building freeze from the top down. After a long, hostile pause, Franklin leaned back, lips curling. You are staking your career on this, Rowan. I know, she said. And his solution better work. I know. The board glared. Oliver looked furious. Dev Patel looked confused. But Amelia didn't wait for permission. She walked out, pulled out her phone, and made the call she never imagined making. Noah, she said when he answered. His voice came through, wary and exhausted. Amelia? I need your help. A long silence. Is it the board? He asked. No, she breathed. It's the building. What happened? Everything. Another silence. Then Noah exhaled softly, a mixture of disbelief and resignation. I'll be there in 10 minutes. For the first time since the crisis began, something inside Amelia steadied. Not because Noah was coming, but because she had finally chosen the right person, not the convenient one. She looked toward the malfunctioning server floors and the freezing halls beyond. Let them doubt me, she thought. Let them watch. Tonight's truth had poured a fracture through her armor. But through that fracture, something far brighter was finally shining. And the woman walking back toward the server room was no longer trying to save her title. She was trying to save people. By the time Noah Ellis reached Hawthorne Tech Tower, the building looked like it was shivering. Frost rimmed the glass doors. Breath clouds hovered above the receptionist's desk. Employees huddled under blankets in the lobby like storm survivors waiting for rescue. When Noah stepped inside, still in his gray janitor uniform, several people stared as if seeing a ghost. Or worse, an intruder. Amelia met him halfway, relief flickering across her face before she caught herself. You came, she said quietly. You asked, Noah replied. 3 simple words that hit Amelia harder than she expected. She led him toward the restricted floors. As they approached the maintenance corridor, Oliver Dermott appeared with his clipboard pressed to his chest like a shield. Absolutely not, Oliver spat. This is a secure environment. He has no clearance. Amelia stepped forward. For the next hour, he has my clearance. You don't have the authority. I do, she said sharply, and I'm using it. Oliver's face flushed a mottled red. This man is a janitor. You're gambling with company infrastructure. Noah didn't rise to the insult. He didn't even look offended. He just unzipped his backpack and removed a compact toolkit filled with precision instruments. Tools Oliver had likely never seen outside an engineering lab. I'm not here for a debate, Noah said calmly. I'm here to fix your building. Oliver scoffed. It's not that simple. This is a multi-layered cascade failure. It's a thermal fault, Noah interrupted. Oliver stiffened. Excuse me? Noah pointed calmly to the green and amber lights flickering down the corridor. The boiler's overloaded because a cooling regulator failed. When the thermal sensors hit the fail-safe threshold, the system shut down the HVAC and forced everything into emergency mode. That triggered the power redistribution, which crashed the internal network. He paused. Everything that's happening right now comes from one choke point. Oliver stared. His mouth opened. No words came out. Amelia blinked, stunned. You figured that out just by looking, she murmured. By listening, Noah corrected. A building behaves like a machine, and a machine always tells you where it hurts. He stepped past Oliver, who instinctively moved aside. The server room felt like a morgue. Cold air hung thick. Fans were frozen mid-spin. Condensation clung to metal panels like trapped breath. Noah crouched beside the main distribution panel, gloved hands skimming across wires with the ease of someone touching a familiar instrument. His voice was steady. Amelia, kill the secondary breakers. She hesitated. Are you sure? That will shut down everything that's already down, he said gently. Trust me. It was the first time he'd asked her for something personal. Not instructions, not explanations. Trust. Amelia's chest tightened. She flipped the switches. The room hummed into stillness. Noah removed the front panel, revealing a narrow microchip corroded along one edge. There you are, he murmured. Oliver sucked in a breath. That can't be right. We checked that board. No, Noah said, lifting the chip with tweezers. You inspected around it. You never looked at the chip itself. How do you know that? Oliver demanded. Noah angled the component toward Amelia. A tiny dent marked the solder line. Because I designed a version of this 10 years ago, Noah said. The damage pattern is identical. Amelia blinked. You designed this? One of my many sins, Noah said softly. He replaced the chip with one from his kit, slid the board back, and reconnected the wires in a sequence so fast Amelia could barely follow his hands. Secondary system is patched, he said. Bring the breakers online. She did. A low, rising hum filled the room. Fans spun. Lights glowed green. Warm air began flowing through the vents like a sigh of relief from the entire building. Then the network monitors blinked to life, one by one, floor by floor, system by system. Noah checked his watch. 29 minutes, he said quietly. It had taken Oliver's team more than 2 hours just to diagnose nothing. Amelia turned to Noah. You saved us. Noah shook his head. You saved yourself. I just fixed what was broken. The words were simple, but she felt the weight behind them. He wasn't talking about the building anymore. But before she could respond, Oliver strode forward, attempting to reclaim his authority. This proves nothing, he snapped. Even if you patched a fault, there's still the matter of the ongoing investigation into your suspicious act. No, Amelia said. Her voice cut through the room like a clean blade. The only thing suspicious, she continued, is that a janitor solved in minutes what our entire technical department couldn't solve in hours. Oliver stiffened. The technicians nearby exchanged uneasy glances. Amelia stepped closer to Noah, not protectively, but fairly, as someone acknowledging truth over ego. This man is more qualified than any engineer we've hired in the last decade, she said, and as of right now, he is cleared of all prior suspicion. Oliver's jaw clenched. A muscle twitched violently in his temple. This isn't over, he hissed. But behind his anger was something else, something darker. Fear. Because for the first time, someone had threatened his carefully constructed lies, and that someone was a janitor who didn't play his game. Noah said nothing. He merely packed his tools calmly and headed for the exit. Amelia followed him out into the hallway, where warm air had finally begun to flow again. Noah, she said softly. Thank you. Truly. He paused, looked at her. And for a moment, something unspoken passed between them, a recognition neither could name yet. You don't owe me thanks, he said. You owe them. Who? He glanced toward the windows, toward the vast, shivering city. The people who freeze when power goes out. The ones who starve when systems fail. The ones no one sees unless something breaks. There was no bitterness in his voice, only truth. Amelia swallowed hard. Noah walked away, leaving her alone in the corridor filled with humming vents. But this time, her loneliness felt different. Not empty, just unfinished. And Amelia Rowan knew without a doubt this crisis was only the beginning, for the building, for the company, and for herself. For 2 days, Hawthorne Tech buzzed with nervous gratitude. Engineers whispered in the hallways about the mysterious patch. Staff thanked Amelia for saving the building. Even board members, those who once eyed her with suspicion, now spoke of her with reluctant respect. But beneath the surface, something darker rippled. Every hallway felt like it was watching. Every security camera seemed to blink a little too slowly. And every time Amelia passed the technical operations floor, she caught Oliver Dermott staring at her with a smile too tight, too polished. The smile of a man who refused to lose. On Wednesday morning, Amelia entered her office to find an email marked Urgent. Security breach. Her stomach tightened. The message was from Oliver. I have new evidence regarding the saboteur. Please attend an emergency meeting with the board at 9 a.m. Noah Ellis must be present. Her pulse hammered. He was moving first. He wanted Noah in the room. He wanted an audience. This wasn't an investigation anymore. It was an ambush. The boardroom felt colder than the day of the system failure. Franklin Hawthorne sat at the head of the table, arms crossed, impatience carved into every line of his face. Oliver stood near the projector, a stack of papers in hand, radiating smug triumph. Noah sat quietly near the door, hands folded, posture calm, but his eyes were wary. He had faced storms bigger than this room, but even he could feel the weight of the air thickening. Amelia took her seat. Oliver clicked the remote. Security footage appeared on the screen. Noah entering a server room at midnight. Noah touching a control panel. Noah reviewing wiring behind a locked door. Spliced together, the clips painted a damning story. Franklin leaned forward. Explain this, Miss Rowan. Amelia opened her mouth, but Noah spoke first. I was answering alarms, he said calmly. Every time you see me on video, it's because a system alert went off. Oliver laughed. A sharp, ugly sound. And how exactly would a janitor know how to read those alerts? Noah's jaw tightened. Because no one else was responding, he said, and because I didn't want the building to fail. Oliver's mouth twitched with triumph. How convenient. He clicked again. A new clip appeared. Noah pulling wires. Amelia stiffened. She knew Noah's posture. She knew his methodical movements. This was him fixing something. But the timestamp. Oliver, Amelia said slowly. What triggered that alarm? Oliver blinked. Too quickly. That's irrelevant. It's not, Amelia insisted. What caused Noah to go there in the first place? Oliver tightened his grip on the remote. Franklin intervened. Let the man finish. He has more. The next clip showed Noah removing a motherboard from a storage drawer. When he stole company equipment, Oliver said dramatically, he was preparing to sabotage the system. Noah inhaled sharply. I was replacing a corroded microchip you ignored. Oliver slammed his palm onto the table. You're lying. A beat of silence. Then Oliver turned to the board, voice oozing with calculated indignation. This is a clear pattern of sabotage, unauthorized access, tampering with restricted equipment, manipulating systems at night. He leaned forward. He staged the system failure so he could miraculously fix it. Classic fraud, classic manipulation. Amelia froze. It was a brilliant lie. A terrifying lie. And if she hadn't followed Noah that night, if she hadn't seen the children, if she hadn't witnessed his real life, she might have believed it herself. Franklin folded his hands. Miss Rowan, you vouched for this man. Do you have any defense? Amelia stood, palms on the table. Yes, she said. But Oliver spoke over her. I also found his financials, he said with venom. No savings, no home address, no assets, just a paycheck that disappears every week. Where is he funneling the money? Who is he supporting? What is he hiding? Noah lowered his gaze, jaw clenching. He would never mention the children in this room, never use them as a shield. And suddenly Amelia felt something hot surge in her chest. Anger, pure and fierce, because Noah Ellis was being attacked precisely in the places he had sacrificed most. She turned to Oliver. You're very confident in this narrative. I'm confident in the truth, Oliver barked. No, Amelia said softly. You're confident in what you think I don't know. Oliver frowned. Amelia leaned forward. Tell me, Oliver, where were you on the nights those alarms went off? Oliver blinked. His throat bobbed. That's irrelevant. It becomes relevant, Amelia said, when every alarm Noah responded to originated from your master access card. Silence fell like a dropped curtain. Noah's head snapped up. Franklin sat straighter. Several board members exchanged glances. Oliver tried to laugh. That's impossible. Amelia tapped her tablet. The screen changed. Security logs, access timestamps, keycard IDs, all pointing to Oliver. Every single breach Noah responded to, she said steadily, was triggered by you. You created the faults, you manipulated the logs, and you edited the footage you just showed us. No, this is fabricated, Oliver sputtered. No, Amelia said softly. This is what it looks like when someone else finally watches the unedited files. Oliver's face drained of color. One board member whispered, My God. Another muttered, Espionage. Franklin leaned back, stunned. Noah closed his eyes briefly, exhaling a breath he had been holding for far too long. Oliver tried one last time. You can't prove I... But Amelia interrupted, voice low and deadly calm. I can prove everything. She clicked the final file. Email logs, encrypted transfers, company data sent to Oliver's personal account. A quiet, devastating blow. Oliver staggered back. Security appeared at the door. No, he whispered. No, you can't! He lunged for the projector, but the guards seized him immediately, twisting his arms behind his back. Oliver shouted, cursed, thrashed. Yet the boardroom didn't look at him with anger. Only disbelief and relief. Amelia stepped aside as they dragged him from the room, his protests echoing down the hall like the last cries of a collapsing empire. The moment the doors shut, silence engulfed the room. Franklin turned to Amelia, looking at her not with contempt, but with something that resembled respect. Miss Rowan, he said quietly, you just saved this company. Amelia didn't answer. She wasn't thinking about the company. She was thinking of 7 sleeping bags in a train station. A soldering iron casting warm light. A man who fixed what everyone else ignored. And the truth she almost let be destroyed. She turned to Noah. Something unspoken passed between them. A shift. A promise. An understanding. And for the first time since the crisis began, Noah offered her a small, tired smile. Not of victory, but of gratitude. And Amelia Rowan realized something quietly, irrevocably. She had chosen the right side, not because of logic, but because of humanity. The sun had barely set when Amelia Rowan found herself standing once again outside the abandoned train station. She didn't know exactly why she came. Not to apologize, not to explain, not to claim victory after unmasking Oliver. Something more fragile pulled her here, something she wasn't ready to name. The wind howled along the cracked tracks as she pushed open the rusted side door. The metal groaned in protest, as if warning her she was crossing another threshold she wouldn't come back from. Inside, warmth embraced her. Battery lanterns glowed softly. Blankets formed little nests on the floor. Whispers and laughter drifted through the space like fragments of a forgotten childhood. Noah was sitting at the long table, guiding 2 of the children through a coding exercise on an ancient laptop he'd somehow coaxed to life. He didn't notice her at first, but the children did. The youngest boy, Eli, barely 6, peeked at her with wide eyes, then tugged Noah's sleeve. "Uncle Noah, she's here." Noah looked up. There was no anger on his face, no accusation, just quiet surprise and a guarded kind of patience. "Amelia," he said simply. "Not Miss Rowan. Not CEO. Her name." It landed gently, but it shook something deep inside her. I wanted to talk, she said softly. Noah nodded and turned to the kids. You three keep working. Start the next function without me. The children nodded obediently, though all three stole glances at Amelia as Noah led her toward a quieter corner. He didn't cross his arms, didn't lean away, didn't protect himself physically, but emotionally, he kept his distance. What is it? He asked. Amelia swallowed, unsure where to begin. I wanted to tell you, Oliver was removed today. All charges against you are gone. I figured, Noah said calmly. Security called me for a statement. So you know everything. I do. And? And I'm glad the truth came out, he replied. For your company, for the people who rely on you. He did not say, for me. The omission stung more than it should. You're not angry? She asked quietly. No, Noah said. Anger isn't useful to me. The kids need stable adults in their lives, not storms. The words hit her with uncomfortable clarity. She had always been a storm, a hurricane of decisions, deadlines, and defenses. And Noah Ellis, he was a harbor. Amelia looked around the room, taking everything in slowly and with intention this time. A girl with braids was drawing on scraps of cardboard. Two boys were arguing over a chessboard made from bottle caps. The older teen, June, was adjusting a tiny solar panel Noah had salvaged. Despite the cold outside, the place felt warmer than any boardroom she had ever stepped into. You've built something extraordinary here, Amelia whispered. Noah exhaled, a sound somewhere between gratitude and exhaustion. It's not extraordinary, he said. It's survival. But survival requires brilliance, she said gently. He looked at her then, really looked at her. And for the first time, there wasn't disappointment or suspicion in his eyes, just quiet curiosity. And why are you really here, Amelia? Her throat tightened. She had rehearsed one version of the truth, but the real one rose to her lips uninvited. Because I can't stop thinking about what I almost did to you. Noah's expression softened slightly, but he didn't interrupt. And I can't stop thinking about what I saw here that night, Amelia continued. Children trusting you, depending on you. A life you built from nothing. A life I didn't even try to understand. The weight in her chest grew heavier. Noah, I am sorry. The words trembled, but she didn't hide them. Noah studied her face, as if searching for something beneath the apology. Intention, sincerity, perhaps even the shape of change. You're trying, he said quietly. The simplicity of the statement unraveled something deep inside her. Trying isn't enough, Amelia said. I want to help. What do you mean? Noah asked cautiously. She motioned around the station. This place is falling apart. It's cold. It's unsafe. These kids deserve more. Noah's jaw tightened, not with anger, but with fear. Fear of losing control, fear of outside interference, fear that accepting help could destroy the fragile world he'd stitched together. They're safe with me, Noah said. I know, Amelia replied. But safety isn't the same as future. That landed. Noah looked away. Don't offer something you can't sustain, he murmured. These kids have been promised the world before. Then people disappeared. Amelia stepped closer, slowly, carefully, as if approaching a wounded animal. I'm not disappearing. How do you know? He whispered. Because she had never said something so true. Because for the first time in my life, she said softly, I want to stay. Noah's breath caught. His eyes flickered with something fragile, hope, maybe, or fear. But before he could answer, June approached cautiously. "Uncle Noah? The code works now, but the output is weird. Can you—" Her voice trailed off as she looked between them. Amelia smiled gently. Noah nodded. "I'll help, June. Give me 1 minute." June nodded and ran back to the table. Noah turned to Amelia again. "I can't promise I'll accept your help," he said finally. "But—" He exhaled. "But I can promise I'll listen." A beginning. A fragile, flickering beginning. Amelia nodded, swallowing down a mix of relief and gratitude. "Then I'll come back. Tomorrow. Or whenever you'll let me." Noah gave a small, tired smile. "We'll see." And as she walked toward the exit, the children's soft chatter filling the warm space behind her, Amelia felt something she had not felt in years. Not power, not victory, not control, belonging. And in the reflection of a cracked window, she caught a glimpse of herself. Not the CEO, not the enforcer, not the product of her father's expectations, but a woman learning to be human again. Amelia Rowan had negotiated mergers worth billions. She had navigated board coups, hostile investors, collapsing markets. But nothing, absolutely nothing, felt as terrifying as walking back into the train station the following evening with a blueprint tube under her arm. The children noticed her first. June's eyes widened. Eli nearly dropped the toy robot Noah had fixed for him. The older boys exchanged suspicious glances. And Noah paused mid-sentence as he was teaching the girls how to debug a simple loop. "Amelia," he said, not unkindly, but not easily either. She held out the tube. "I brought something. Can we talk?" The children watched, 7 pairs of wary eyes tracking her every move. Their distrust was quiet, but sharp. Children who had learned the world the hard way. Noah nodded toward a small storage room that served as his office. It held a folding chair, an old first aid kit, and enough tools to rebuild half the station. Amelia stepped inside. Noah followed, leaving the door open so the kids could still see them. Trust was a currency here, thin, fragile, and hard-won. She set the tube on the table and unrolled the blueprint with delicate fingers. A detailed architectural layout spread before them. Wide rooms, insulated walls, emergency exits, solar panels on the roof, a multi-purpose learning space. Noah stared. "What is this?" Amelia steadied her breath. "This is a warehouse on Halston Street, 5 blocks from here. Structurally sound. Good foundation. It's been empty for years." "What are you planning?" Noah asked, voice low. "Not planning," she corrected. "Offering." He didn't speak, so she continued. "I've already paid the first 6 months' lease from my personal account. No strings. I'm not asking you to leave this place unless you want to, but it's warmer, safer, and it has space for real beds, real classrooms." Noah stepped back, as if the blueprint were a fire he didn't dare touch. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. She had expected this question. She had rehearsed a dozen reasonable answers: corporate responsibility, guilt, restitution. But none of them were the truth. So she gave him the one thing she'd given almost no one in her life: honesty. "Because I don't want you to survive anymore," she whispered. "I want you to live." Noah's breath caught. His eyes flickered. Anger, bewilderment, fear, hope, all colliding in one storm. Then his voice came out rougher than she had ever heard it. "You don't know what you're asking." "I think I do," Amelia said softly. "I'm asking to help." "No," he said. "You're asking to become part of something, and once you walk into this world, you can't walk out without leaving a wound." Amelia's throat tightened. I won't leave. You don't know that. I do. For the first time, Noah's composure cracked. He dragged a hand through his hair, pacing once, twice, then stopping with his back to her. When Lena died, Noah said quietly, every promise people made to these kids disappeared with her. Volunteers vanished, donations dried up, social workers moved on. Everyone said the same thing, I'll come back, but no one did. He turned slowly. These kids survived disappointment more times than I can count. I'm the only constant they've ever had. I know, Amelia said softly. No, he said again. You don't. He exhaled, a sound filled with exhaustion and something deeper, something like grief. If you make a promise here, even a small one, they'll believe it. They'll hold it like a lifeline. And if you ever change your mind, if life pulls you away, if the board consumes you again, they'll feel that break for the rest of their lives. Amelia felt the weight of his words like stone. She stepped forward, choosing her movements carefully, as though any sudden gesture might shatter the moment. Noah, she said, look at me. He hesitated, then lifted his eyes. I am not my father, she said. I am not the board. I am not the version of myself who followed you that night. She touched the blueprint gently. This is not charity, not pity, not guilt. It's a promise, she said. Noah stared at her, silent, searching. Outside the room, the children were still watching, their faces anxious and curious. Amelia turned to them and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. If you want a new home, she said, I'll build it with you. Not for you, with you. A long silence followed. Then June, boldest, brightest, sharpest, stepped forward. What about school? She asked. We'll make a school, Amelia said. What about food? Another child asked. I'll help you set up a pantry. What about computers? The older boy demanded. I'll bring new ones, real ones. You'll learn on equipment that respects your abilities. Noah breathed out slowly. Amelia looked at him again. And what about me? He asked softly. What are you offering me? She didn't smile. This wasn't a moment for smiles. I'm offering you someone who won't run, she said. A single tear slipped down June's cheek. She wiped it quickly, embarrassed. Then she whispered, Uncle Noah, can we trust her? Noah looked at Amelia, long, steady, unflinching. Then he nodded once. Yes, he said. I think we can. It was not an embrace, not forgiveness, not a declaration, just a beginning, a real one. The children erupted, quiet cheers, hopeful laughter, cautious joy. Amelia felt her chest tremble with something she hadn't felt since she was a little girl, a sense of belonging. Noah rolled up the blueprint gently. So, he said, voice lighter now, when do we start? Amelia answered without hesitation. Tomorrow morning. As she left the station, snow falling softly around her, Amelia realized something undeniable. This wasn't just about helping them. It was about saving herself. And for the first time in years, the future didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like a door, a warm, flickering door she was finally brave enough to open. The warehouse on Halston Street smelled of sawdust, fresh paint, and something impossible to name, hope, maybe, or the quiet miracle of a beginning no one believed would come. It had taken 6 weeks. 6 weeks of demolition and rebuilding. 6 weeks of bruised knuckles and late-night planning. 6 weeks of Noah sketching wiring diagrams while Amelia ordered insulation, desks, and carpets. 6 weeks of children running between stacks of lumber, leaving laughter where dust used to settle. Now, on a bright Saturday morning, sunlight poured through the newly installed skylights, scattering golden shapes across the polished concrete floor. The kids were everywhere at once. Eli spinning in circles beneath the light, June adjusting a computer monitor, Theo and Aiden taping up their hand-painted banner, the Halston Learning Home, Flynn and Friends. And Noah. Noah stood in the center of the room, looking around with an expression Amelia had never seen on him. Peace. A real, unguarded peace. When he caught her watching, he gave her a small smile. Not exhausted, not wary, soft, warm, grateful. "You did this," he murmured. Amelia shook her head. "No, we did." The dedication ceremony was small and quiet. Just the 7 kids, Noah and Amelia. No press, no board members, no donors with golden pens. Just the people who mattered. June stepped forward first, always the bravest. "We made something for you," she said, handing Amelia a folded piece of heavy paper. Inside was a drawing. Noah and the children standing beneath a roof full of stars, Amelia at the door holding a toolbox. Above them, written in careful block letters, "Thank you for seeing us." Amelia pressed a hand to her chest. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice threatened to break, but she let it. The children grinned. Later, Amelia helped Noah set the last desk into place. The soft hum of the new heater filled the background like a heartbeat. "Feels unreal," Noah murmured. "It's real," she said. "And it's yours." "Ours," he corrected gently. Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them, not romance, not obligation, but a recognition built over sleepless nights and fragile conversations. 2 people shaped by different kinds of loss. 2 people who had finally stopped running. "Are you ready?" she asked. "For what?" "To open the doors." He chuckled softly. "They've basically opened it themselves." He wasn't wrong. Eli was already typing on a brand new computer. June was teaching the younger ones how to adjust their chairs. The older boys were debating who got the desk near the window. The learning center was alive before it even began. Around noon, Amelia stepped outside to take a breath of fresh air. The winter chill had softened. The sky was a pale, forgiving blue. She leaned against the railing, letting the sunlight warm her face. Footsteps approached. Noah joined her, hands in his pockets, eyes also on the sky. "You know," he said softly, "when Lena died, I thought that was the end of everything good. I kept going because the kids needed me, not because I believed in anything." Amelia looked at him gently. He continued, "I rebuilt machines, not people. Fixing things was easier than feeling things." He paused. "But then you showed up in that station, and suddenly I wasn't alone in the fight anymore." Amelia swallowed hard. "I didn't come to save anyone," she whispered. "I came to become someone better." Noah's voice softened. "You did." A long silence followed, comfortable like an old coat you forgot you still owned. Then he asked quietly, "What will you tell your board?" "About all this?" Amelia exhaled, a slow breath of certainty. "The truth. That you're funding a learning center for 7 kids in an abandoned warehouse?" She smiled. "That I'm building a program, a pilot, a new initiative at Hawthorne Tech, something that reflects who we should have been all along." "And what's it called?" She looked up at him. "Human first." Noah blinked. "That simple?" "That important," she said. For the first time, he didn't doubt her, didn't tense, didn't step back. He simply nodded, understanding. "You're changing things," he murmured. Amelia shook her head gently. "No, we're changing them." As afternoon melted toward evening, the children settled around the long table Noah had built from reclaimed oak. A feast of spaghetti filled mismatched bowls. March sunlight streamed across the floor. The room buzzed with chatter about homework, projects, and dreams. Before they ate, little Eli insisted on saying something. "Thank you for making a home out of a broken place," he said shyly, "and for fixing us when we didn't know we could be fixed." Noah's eyes glistened. Amelia's throat ached, and for a moment everything in the world felt exactly where it belonged. After dinner, as the children drifted off to their sleeping loft, warm beds, real beds, not concrete and sleeping bags, Noah stayed back to wash dishes. Amelia dried them beside him, falling into an easy rhythm. When the last plate was placed on the shelf, she leaned against the counter. "Noah," she said quietly. He looked up. "What?" he asked, voice soft. "Thank you," she whispered, "for letting me in." He took a slow breath. "Thank you for knocking twice," he murmured. "Most people only knock once. Then they leave when the world doesn't open fast enough." Their eyes held. No fear, no walls, just two broken people who had learned how to stand again. Amelia smiled, small, real, unarmored. "Same time next Saturday?" she asked softly. Noah's lips curved into the warmest smile she'd ever seen. "Same time," he said. "The kids would be disappointed if you didn't show up." She raised a brow. "Just the kids?" Noah's smile widened, a rare light breaking through old shadows. "No," he said quietly, "not just the kids." Outside, the first warm breeze of early spring swept through the alley, carrying the scent of thawed earth and new beginnings. Inside, the lights of the Halston Learning Home glowed, a beacon stitched together by human hands, second chances, and the stubborn belief that broken things are worth repairing. And as Amelia stepped outside, closing the door gently behind her, she realized the woman who had followed a janitor at 2 a.m. was no longer the woman standing in the spring dusk. She was something braver, something kinder, something real. A person who chose humanity. One act of courage, one child, one repaired machine, one Saturday night at a time. The world wouldn't change overnight, but she had, and that was how every revolution begins.